What's going on, everybody? Steve here, Philosopher Cards. Thanks for coming back to the channel, checking it out. We're going to talk about a market update today on two aspects of sorcery. And the first one is we have signs of life across all singles markets. And I'm going to show you that in Shibby's tool here. And the second thing is market buyouts and Arthurian Legends foils. Both of them, I think, are very, very interesting. So right here, and don't forget, if you want to check out the description of my video, there's a link to Shibby's Patreon, which gets you access to this tool. You also have a link in the description to my Discord server, as well as my Patreon account. So you can join the Discord, chat with a bunch of us out there on Sorcery, as well as selling on TCG Player and just general market things. So right now, we're looking at right here at non-foil alpha. And look at this, since November 15th or 14th or so, that has been, and we're looking at the blue bar, right? The blue bar on the bottom of the low, that has been flat. That's kind of interesting. Kind of, you know, there's been a lot of support, a little dip, you know, and then it kind of snapped right back. And I think this is a really interesting sign. Now let's take a look at the foils here. And you can kind of see the similar trend, still kind of moving a little downward, but we're still retaining right around that 80,000 in value. Now let's go to beta. And we're looking at beta foils, and this is where we see something really interesting, because we've had downward pressure, talk of, you know, out of stock. That was this big spike here, out of stock, and then all of a sudden we start to see this inflection point. Look at that rounding occur right there. Look at that roundingness, like around. Now that could mean that, you know, A, we're seeing some stability around that price point, but B, it means, you know, there's a lot of buying occurring, you know. So I find that really interesting. Now let's look at the non-foil. Non-foil is even more interesting, because if we look at the low, that's that blue line again, you're going to see the prices remain very flat since July, which is astounding. Right? So we had that little dip here, you know, when Arthurian Legends is coming out and getting launched, and then, you know, the boom after Arthurian Legends, and, you know, everything kind of stabilized right around that price point. And then look at what happens here towards the end of the year, into January 1st. We got that upward pressure right back to that, we'll call $675 to $700 for a beta set. Very interesting. Now, lastly, let's take a look at Arthurian Legends here. And Arthurian Legends non-foil, very, very flat. Everything's very flat around that 550 number on that low. And then let's look at the foil. Even more flat. We'll say everything's kind of right around that 6K number. I mean, a little trending downward, but nothing like really dipping or anything like that. And I think what you're going to see is, you know, when Arthurian Legends finally goes out of stock at distribution, because distribution's trickling it out. They got like the faucet and on their handles on the faucet, and they're turning it on, turning it off, turning it on, turning it off, right? So there's some there. And once you start to see that vanish, I think there's going to be some wild things happen with Arthurian Legends, especially if there's no reprint. Now, let's look at some of the market buyouts that we're seeing. And here you can see Valley of Delight. And this was one of the first ones that I kind of noticed. And there was a buyout of 13 or so of these cards just a week or so ago, 2 weeks maybe. And I was opening some boxes. I pulled one. I was like, what the heck? It jumped to 150 per card, and you can kind of see I have some listed here. But then something really interesting happened. You can start to see some of the other ones, like Blunderbore. This was a recent ad, but you can see a buyout of 5 of those clearing out the market. And you can also see things like this one cleared out 12 or so. And look at $40, that's so cheap. Somebody must be speccing on Boudica, you know, thinking could be real playable and such. So I find this really interesting. But Then the next thing is the Reckless Squire. I don't know if you noticed earlier in the video, the Reckless Squire painting behind me, but I just happened to poke around and say, hey, let me see what the foils are. I might want to do a display. I have several of the curios, so I thought maybe framing and something like that would look nice. And look at that, 25 or so bought out right around Christmas time. And then if we start going through, I just, was clicking through, look, 20 Lumbering Giants bought out, Fomorians, 25 Fomorians, and then 15 Fomorians the next day. I don't know, Degradation. These are exceptional buyouts too, 25, right? Then let's look at, I haven't even looked at Shellycoat yet. I have no idea. Yep, Shellycoat, look, 20. Let's look at Briar Patch. Okay, Briar Patch pretty steady across the board. Let's look at Leyline. Boom, big buyouts right here around Leyline. And I just find this incredibly interesting because there's definitely life in the market on a you used to see the complainers on Sorcery and stuff. Oh, it's a dead game. You don't see these kind of buyouts. You don't see prices like this. You don't see beta prices for non-foil sets remaining flat for a 6-month period and not tanking. So I feel very good about where prices are currently. The buyouts are a sign of life, I think, and when Arthurian Legends goes out of stock, I think it's only going to get crazier. I think everything's underpriced. I myself have stopped listing foils for Arthurian Legends because a buck of foil is way too cheap, in my opinion. 2 years from now or something like that, this is going to be a $5 foil, easy. So if you believe in the game and you believe that Sorcery is going to do well, there's a lot of opportunity right now in Arthurian Legends, in my opinion, and that's what I've been doing. So this is a little summary for the market. I thought it would pique everybody's interest, and go ahead and move back here. You can kind of see that painting, the Reckless Squire, right behind me. So, I'm excited to see in the coming months here what's going to happen, especially with a mini dragon set and how that'll impact things. But right now, we're seeing signs of a healthy market. We're seeing more demand. I've seen a lot more sales, personally, than I did kind of in the early December timeframe. So I feel pretty good about things. And, if we're talking sealed prices, you're still seeing Arthurian Legends hover around that $100 a box. You're still seeing beta kind of at that $175 a box or so, unless you're buying from Team Covenant. And then if you're looking at alpha, it's still right around that $1,000 a box, depending on what platform you're buying on. You might be able to get a little cheaper. You might have to pay a little more, but right around $1,000 a box is kind of where things are at. So thanks again, everybody, for checking out the channel. And again, don't forget to join my Discord. You can go out there, join in on some alpha breaks that we're going to do. I think we do them like weekly at this point. And some Arthurian Legends breaks, by demand and stuff. And I'll be doing some Magic Innistrad remastered collectors and things like that too. So thanks again, everybody. We'll talk to y'all later.